Hey Southwest NCSY, I'm Aaron Brooks, and I'm bringing you this week's 90-second Dvar Torah. Hopefully it won't be too much over 90 seconds, but I can't guarantee anything. Okay, so there's a pasuk in this week's Parsha in which Moshe, when discussing with Hashem whether he should be the leader or not, says Shlach na biyad tishlach, send somebody else. Rashi, commenting on what he means by Shlach na biyad tishlach, means a very peculiar comment. He says Moshe was saying send somebody else because Moshe knew at this point he wasn't going to be able to be the one to take the Jews into the land of Israel. Right? This is extremely perplexing because we've only been introduced to Moshe in this week's Parsha, and yet somehow in this week's Parsha he already knows he's not going to be the one to bring the Jews into the land of Israel. What makes it even more perplexing is that if you look in Parshat Beha'alotcha, which comes way later in the Torah, there's a pasuk in which Moshe, when talking to his father-in-law Chovav, he says, "Nosim anachnu el hamakom." He says, "We are going in to the place which Hashem has promised us, namely the land of Israel." Right? But he says "we," meaning he includes himself, and Rashi immediately picks up on it. Why does he say "we"? Because he, at that point, later on in this week's Parsha, he was under the impression that he was going to be able to go into the land of Israel, right? Which is a pretty explicit contradiction to what Rashi says in this week's Parsha, which Moshe knows that he's not going to be making it into the land of Israel, as opposed to Parshat Beha'alotcha, which comes way later in the Torah, in which case, or in that Parsha, where Moshe seems to be unaware of the fact that he's not going to make it in, because he tells his father-in-law, stick with us because I think we're all going to go into the land of Israel. I just realized I'm at a minute 30, but we have to answer the question. So hope you'll still stick with me for one more minute. Okay, so the Gur Aryeh has an interesting answer to solve this contradiction, and basically what he says is that both of them are true. How are both of these ideas true? So he says that when Moshe was talking to Hashem and he says that send somebody else because I'm not going to be the one to bring the Jews into the land of Israel, he's talking in the form of a prophecy, right? There's a prophecy set up that Moshe is not going to be the one to lead the Jews into the land of Israel. Right? But when Moshe is talking to his father-in-law, he's almost talking in the form of prayer and saying, we're going to go in because I know that I can cry out to Hashem and really open my heart and request that he let me in, and hopefully he'll let me in. Right? And I think this answer set up by the Gur Aryeh teaches us a very special lesson, not only with regard to prayer and davening, tefillah, in everyday life, but just with regard to everyday life in general, right? The fact that Moshe was able to incorporate his goals and his dreams into his everyday language and saying, I think I'm going to go in because I know that I can call out to Hashem and he'll really give me what I want, even though he wasn't necessarily successful in the end. So too, in our lives, we should be confident in our goals, even if they seem impossible, and really strive to fulfill them. Okay, Shabbat Shalom.